Good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call to order a special meeting of the Bedford Township Board of Zoning Appeals for October 9, 2. Motion carried. Hopefully everyone's had a chance to look at the minutes for October 1 meeting. I'd like a motion to approve those minutes.
I will make a motion we approve the minutes of our October 1st meeting.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a support. Those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, new business. Pardon me? Okay. Talk about me, I think. Okay, good. Thank you. One member, before we open the public hearing, we need to one member shy, which means that in voting, we only have 4 members to vote, and the majority is still 3 out of 4 now instead of 3 out of 5. So the first appeal is from, I'm sorry if I mispronounce this, Arist Kunz, or Koontz? Yes. So you have the option, if you wish, to delay the hearing on your variance request to another meeting when all 5 of us are here, or you can go ahead with it tonight.
I think I'd like to go ahead with it.
Okay, all righty. Well, I'd like a motion to open the public hearing then.
I'll make that
move that we
motion.
open the public hearing for Ernst Koontz, property 5802-018-09000.
Support.
Okay, we have a motion and a support. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion carried. Karen, would you like to read the analysis for this variance request?
Yes. The applicant is Arist L. Koontz Jr., 4130 West Temperance Road, Ottawa Lake, Michigan. They are the owners of the property. They are also going to be the representative for the request. Property number 5802-018-09000, 1 acre, agriculturally zoned. The applicant is seeking to construct a 288 square foot additional accessory building. Due to the location of the existing pole barn in proximity to the proposed accessory building, there is an encroachment of 4 feet within the required 10-foot setback. Per section 400-1903, accessory building table, in an agricultural zoning district, a required minimum setback from any building to building is 10 feet, thus requiring the 4-foot building-to-building setback variance. The applicant has indicated in the submitted letter the proposed additional accessory building will be in be a pre-constructed metal shed, and the proposed location is where there is an existing concrete pad the applicant wishes to utilize. At this time, no letters or calls of objection have been received.
Okay. Mr. Kunz, would you like to approach the podium? State your name and address for the record.
I'm Arist Koontz. My address is 4130 West Temperance Road, Ottawa Lake, Michigan.
Okay. Do you have anything in addition to what Karen indicated?
No, it's just that difference between the barn, the setback for the 10 feet. I'm 6, and it's supposed to be 10, so we need a variance on it.
Okay. Do any of the board? Yes.
If I may, Mr. Chair, I failed to state that the applicant also did provide us with 5 letters of no objection, signatures of no objection.
Okay. Any of the board members have any questions for the applicant? Yes, George.
What, you have the concrete pad is already set there?
It is.
Yeah, what was that for?
There was a existing shed there, and I took that down because I want to put a bigger one there. And then I increased it to that 12 by 24. And that's why, at that point, I figured I better find out on the variance on that before I went any further. So that's why I came down, found out it was supposed to be 10 feet clearance. And it's all built, metal building, so I don't think we have any type of fire problem or anything like that, being close.
Was the shed there when the big barn was built, the larger barn?
It was built just about the same time.
Mm-hmm.
The slab was poured at the same time for it.
Okay. Alrighty. Any other questions for the applicant? Jody? You? Okay. Yes.
When was the shed that it originally was there, when was that built?
When was it built?
Yes.
It was built in 92, and it was just all metal. Came from Montgomery Ward's, metal frame, sat on the slab, and it was all completely metal. And basically, this one's about the same because it's all metal roof and metal sides.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any questions from the audience or any comments from the audience on this particular variance request? Hearing none, might be appropriate to close the public hearing.
I make a motion, we close the public hearing.
I'll support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any comments or questions for our township officials?
I had a question. Karen, if the existing shed was built 4 feet from the barn in 1992, would a variance have been required back then?
Excuse me. It was built 6 feet from the barn. I needed another 4 feet.
Sorry, thank you.
Do you want to answer that?
I was just gonna say, was the original shed 6 feet, or do you add more concrete that took you to the 6 feet?
No, it was 6 feet originally. So
Yeah, it didn't comply back then.
Okay.
I guess the question I had was you said both barns were built around the same time?
Yes.
Yeah, the question I had was the larger barn location approved subject to the smaller barn being removed? But I don't know if we have those records or not, or if we know. Doesn't look like we do.
Smaller than 200 square feet does not require a permit. He's actually increasing the size.
Oh, I see. So it was likely smaller.
Correct.
Okay. Then the next question I had because they're both metal, both the existing one and the new one, is there any
Building code
fire,
issues? No, the building code, the Michigan Building Code 2015 looks at 3 feet as a setback from a property line, so we would assume that a 6-foot setback would comply to the Michigan Residential Building Code 2015. So no building code issue with a 6-foot setback. Just
so we're not
wording.
set back from a property line, we're set back from another building.
I realize that, but still, the building code's assuming a lot line means you can build 3 feet, another person can build 3 feet, 6 feet between structures is okay per code.
Okay.
So our ordinance didn't keep pace with that. In terms of interior setbacks, and actually, that actually lot to lot setbacks.
I've got a question for our attorney. The practical difficulty, would that be the fact that the slab that's intended to be built upon already exists at that location, or would it be something else?
You could use that as a practical difficulty. Perhaps I was just asking our building inspector, given the fact that this would not constitute a building code violation, even if it was to an adjacent lot, because you'd have 6 feet. I asked Dennis, what do you think the purpose was for our ordinance to maintain a 10-foot separation distance between 2 buildings was? And he indicated the old UBC, the Uniform Building Code. So our ordinance perhaps didn't keep up with the changes to the building code that the state has adopted, that we've adopted, in terms of an isolation or separation distance between 2 interior buildings. So perhaps you could offer as a practical difficulty the fact that under the current building code, this would be a sufficient separation distance between interior buildings for fire suppression purposes and the like. It just didn't keep pace with the new Uniform Building Code. It's like he said, you keep pace with our new building code. Like he said, you could have on contiguous lots, you could have a building 3 feet from the lot line, and the other owner could have a building 3 feet from the lot line, thus a distance of 6 feet, which this gentleman has. So as long as it's not a fire safety issue, which it doesn't sound like it is because we have metal buildings, and because it's not a violation of the building code per se, you could offer that as a practical difficulty combined with the fact that he's got a slab there that would support this new metal building.
Okay.
Like to make a motion?
All right.
All right. I make a motion, we grant the plus or minus 4-foot building-to-building setback variance for property number 5802-018-09000, otherwise known as 4130 West Temperance Road, Ottawa Lake, Michigan. Due to the practical and difficulty of the existing slab there and the cost to the current owner, also seeing that it complies with current building code, and there are 5 letters of no objection.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a support. Any further discussion? Karen, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Lake?
Yes.
Mr. Welling?
Aye.
Mr. Zebek?
Aye.
Mr. Potter?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Okay, the motion's carried, your variance is granted. Thank you. Okay, our next item on the agenda is the public hearing regarding the appeal of Edward Rendle on the C3 General Business District front footage variance. And again, we're shy one member. Let's see, would Mr. Rendell approach the bench, or whoever's representing him approach the podium, please?
Good evening. My name is Jim Jacobs with Jacobs Architects.
All right, thank
Here
you.
tonight to represent the development.
Okay. As you might have heard before, we're one member shy. So you have the opportunity to either delay
We wish to
this
delay.
until, you wish to go ahead with it? Okay, all right.
Thank you.
Karen, would you care to read the analysis?
They're going to
Oh, wait a minute, we need a motion
Yes.
to open the public hearing. Let's have that.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you.
I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Public hearing.
We're going to delay it, though, right?
They're
What's
delaying.
that?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
we're not going to conduct a public hearing if the applicant wishes to
Oh, I
delay.
misunderstood. You wish to delay? Oh, okay. All righty.
I couldn't hear.
And
I'm sorry. My mistake.
look, can we have some order, please? Please, please? The state law, please.
No.
If you decide to state your case tonight, the vote will be taken tonight. Okay, all right.
Okay. So we have a motion to open the public hearing, Tom?
I think so.
Yes.
And I seconded it.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, public hearing open. Karen, would you please read the analysis that was prepared?
Yes, the owner of this property, Edward Rendle, 4889 Temperance Road, Ottawa Lake, just wanted to also inform you that a letter of authorization has given James Jacobs and John Bates Jr. and Jess Saylor to also speak on their behalf, as they are the property owners. The variance location, 3199 West Stearns Road, property number 5802-032-05560. Acreage 23.08 plus or minus acres. Property is currently split zone, C3 general commercial and R2A single family residential. The master plan designation is neighborhood business and mixed use. The variance requested is 34 plus or minus frontage variance on Secor Road. The existing parcel consists of approximately 23.08 plus or minus acres with 1,171.63 feet of frontage on Stearns Road and a 66 plus or minus feet of frontage on Secor Road. The subject site is split zone with approximately plus or minus 4.1 acres zone C3 general commercial and plus or minus 18.98 acres zoned R2A single family residential. The applicant is seeking to split a 3.732 plus or minus acre parcel off the 23.08 acre parcel and per section 400/1800 schedule of regulations. In a C3 general commercial zoning district, a minimum of 100 feet of frontage is required. Should the variance be granted, a portion of the proposed 3.732 acre parcel to be split off will be required to go through the rezoning process, as approximately 1.31 acre is located within the R2A single-family residential zoning district. Therefore, an application and approval of a land division will be required. It should also be noted split zone parcels can no longer be combined as stated in section 301.007, application for combinations. Approval of a combination shall be subject to common title ownership and identical zoning district classification of the lands to be combined. The applicant has submitted a letter dated October 1, 2018, stating they are seeking to split the parent parcel into 4 parcels for commercial and residential developments. It should be noted, only item the Board of Zoning Appeals will be acting on at this time is the frontage variance on Secor Road, which is required to create a proposed standalone parcel with frontage exclusively located on Secor Road. All other aspects required to create the proposed parcel will be handled by other boards and/or commissions through separate applications with the township. The applicant stated in their letter, this hardship is a result of past ownership and administrations not preserving the minimum 100-foot frontage to allow either a separate development on Secor or split and sale of the parent lot as it is being requested by the new ownership in their plan for development. Should the variance request be granted, the variance required is a 34 plus or minus foot frontage variance. At this time, there have been inquiries of objection to the requests that have been discussed with the Planning Department as well as the Supervisor's Department. Please note there is also a scheduled public hearing on October 24, 2018, 7 p.m. for a recommendation from the Planning Commission to rezone a portion of the proposed parcel from R2A, single-family residential, to C3, general commercial. I also, in front of your place this evening, just for additional information, the portion of the split zone parcel that we are considering this evening is currently C3 zoned. That was C3 zoned in May 5th, 1977, when the zoning ordinance went into effect. So this has not been rezoned to C3. It was when the ordinance went into effect. As well, on the flip side, there is a portion of a site plan that was approved in 2001 by the Planning Commission for the Splash Car Wash. When that parcel was created, it reduced the frontage on Secor Road by 141 feet to what is now 66 feet in width. So I didn't know if you had any additional
Yes.
questions on that, but that did take place in 2001.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Jacobs, do you have anything in addition to what Karen indicated about your request?
Yes, Chairman. Good evening. Sorry for the confusion there at the beginning. What we're asking for this evening is a 34-foot variance in frontage to allow the site to essentially be developed as we feel it was originally intended on a commercial basis, with the idea that we would be able to split this off as a separate lot. The purpose of the 66-foot, as we feel it was originally left for, is an access drive. It does not provide the 100-foot frontage and would not have provided it at the time that it was split at the earlier date mentioned. And the 100-foot, as I understand it, was required back then. So we feel that this was intended to be a driveway, and that's the way we intend to use it. We do not intend to try to construct any structure within that 66 feet that would provide the access to do the commercial development as it's originally intended in the rear of the site. What this allows us to do is further the development commercially with multiple tenants on the site in a much more clean fashion than trying to create a PUD and subdivision and other aspects of other methods which we could approve or proceed to develop in the same fashion. So the hardship we're presented with this evening is we feel one that was created by previous ownership and splits, and therefore we're requesting your consideration of the variance this evening. I know that the present owners do have some other comments on their feelings of development within the township. I'm not sure they're specifically related to the request. I'm going to prepare the technical side of that. From a ownership and township resident, they do have some comments that they would like to share this evening
Right.
as well.
Right. And you're aware that the only action that we'll be considering tonight is whether or not to grant the variance to allow
Absolutely.
you to continue with a 66-foot frontage.
Yeah, there are many steps yet to go through and many additional public hearings to go through to address any development standards for screening, setbacks, quality of construction, all those kind of things. We understand that process is still before us.
Okay,
This is
thank
just
you.
for this variance.
I'd like to add for everyone in the room, first I'll ask the other board members if they have any questions of the applicant, and then everybody that wishes to speak will get their chance to speak. I'd just like to ask everyone that wants to speak to approach the podium for the record and state their name and address. So I'll ask the other board members first. Thank you. Do any of the board members have a question for the...
Limit the comments, time-wise,
Yes.
and also limit people speaking
For
who already
others.
said something.
Yeah, okay.
Comments on.
Okay.
And then to speak to the board on this. Now I have a question.
Yes.
Where'd you go?
Mr. Jacobs? Sorry.
Uh, There's all this frontage on Stearns Road, and I see what you're doing here. There's no possible way to kind of get the frontage on Stearns Road with another route through there? That way people could actually come into this property from both ways?
As I understand it, if we were to approach it that fashion, we would be back before you with a different variance request because of the lot depth to width ratio. I'm not, we haven't pursued all of those technical aspects of it, so I don't know all the
Okay, he's got, does that
standards
sound
right off
correct
the
to
top
you?
of my head, but
They currently, there is approximately, and I'm not sure how much that approach with the Burger King carves into that frontage, but
Right.
it looks like it is approximately 192 feet if we would draw the straight line just immediately east of
Yes.
that driveway to where the C3 ends and the R2A begins to
Right.
the east. They're required to have 100 feet of frontage for each resulting parcel that is going to be C3 zoned. And that may require another variance depending on how many parcels they're looking to develop.
Are we talking about here?
Each parcel has to have its own frontage. It cannot,
I understand that.
parcel can't be
Right.
created without the frontage.
And there's not enough room for it? That's what you're saying? I can't read the footage on my drawing, I'm sorry.
Not to create a C3 parcel
Okay,
without a variance.
thank you very much.
Okay, any, Tom?
Did Phil want to talk?
Phil, did you have a comment?
Just that, before we invite public comment, I think Mr. Jacobs indicated that the developer wanted to speak in addition to him. Is that right or wrong, or in?
We might want to wait, just so we can field the questions.
All right.
Want to hear what they have to say and field the questions accurately.
Okay,
So the board should go ahead and ask Mr. Jacobs any questions it has
that's right.
before
Mhm.
you invite public comment.
Okay. Anybody else?
Nope, I'm good.
No? Okay. All right, I'd like to open it up for comments from the floor. And again, everybody get a chance to speak. I'd like it to limit each person to speak once and try to keep it under 5 minutes. So whoever wants to go first, if anybody wants to speak, please approach the podium and give your name and address, please, for the record.
Good evening. John Luchansky, 7163 Glenmore Drive, Lambertville, Michigan, a proud resident of Green Hills.
Okay.
The request that's before you is kind of conflicting. What they're requesting is a 34% deviation from what the ordinance currently reads. Now, if I remember right, when I first got up here in the township, there was a Sunoco station on that corner, Stearns and Secor. That was the only thing there. Everything else was vacant land. And there was no commercial buildings on that entire structure. No Rite Aid, no Burger King, no Splash Car Wash, and no strip mall. Of course, times change. And then the developer decided, or the owner of the property, decided to develop that parcel into commercial slots. So he created commercial slots. Everybody else has complied, according to the information I've heard, in making sure that they complied with the 100-foot dimensions. Now, this one parcel is left. Why? I don't know. That only meets 66 feet. But I haven't heard anything here to allow the any change in the granting of a variance for this. My concern is that basically there's a possible shenanigans going on, especially with the upcoming Planning Commission meeting for the rezoning of parcels of property that are designated residential to be part of this commercial conglomerate. I'm sure that everybody in this room who's members of Hidden Valley or Green Hills has heard these, and we're still not sure what's going on. But this is only one piece of the puzzle that the developers have to meet to get their way. And that's to change everything that we've strived so hard to live for in Bedford Township. Going back in ancient history, back in '76, I was a member of the Planning Commission. And at that time, I had just passed the bar, and somebody told me, if you want to become friends and get to know people, join the Planning Commission. That was the biggest mistake of my life, because you create more enemies, because you have to hold firm to the ordinances unless you find significant hardship. I personally do not see the hardship. Gave me some relief when I went to the library today to review an old friend of mine when I was becoming a member of the BZA and the Planning Commission, the Zoning Board of Appeals handbooks. And that was updated in 2006. And it has certain requirements that you guys are supposed to review to make sure before you vote to see if every one of those has been met. And who created the hardship? The original owner. But to change this now to make the smaller parcel C3 applicable, I think is a great injustice to us. So, on my opinion, and I hope the opinion of many others here in the room, we would respectfully ask that you deny this request for a variance. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, is there anyone else that would like to comment? Okay, hearing none. Yes. Thank you.
George Wells, 7297 Hidden Valley Drive, Lambertville.
Okay.
As the other gentleman stated, a number of us have heard that one or more of our elected officials, trustees, have been saying that this is a done deal. We've had no public hearings. So he used the word shenanigans, which I think is a very good word. I see it as possible out-and-out corruption, if that's the case.
Sir, may I ask you to come closer to the mic?
I wasn't, those comments weren't made directly to me, but we've had conversations, we've got Facebook pages, and this is very serious business. If we've got township trustees are making these backroom deals and saying that we're going to just let this stuff happen, when we have a room full of people here, we're still finding that our neighbors are unaware of this. We're going around door to door. We're doing campaigns on Facebook and various social media. We're talking to people. If I go into the local businesses, and I'm finding almost daily, people aren't even aware that this is going on. We have a very serious concern, many of us do, I do, as a Hidden Valley resident, about the traffic. Anything that introduces additional traffic to Secor Road in the vicinity of Secor and Stearns creates a much greater hardship to us as the residents than it does to some commercial enterprise who wants to bring in what we've heard, an Aldi store and a Tractor Supply. There's been no justification whatsoever for any of the things that we've heard so far in the recent couple of months, where we as a community will benefit, where we as residents of Hidden Valley and Green Hills will benefit by any of this. It creates a significant hardship to us. If you go down Stearns Road at certain times of the day, it's very difficult to get into or out of Hidden Valley. It's difficult to get into and out of the Burger King and the Splash Car Wash and Kroger's, even though there are turn lanes, because the traffic is so heavy. We have an extraordinary number of accidents. One of my neighbors who's sitting in the room tonight and I were having a conversation, and she said to me, she said, have you noticed how often we hear sirens around here anymore? It's because there are accidents all the time. It's Stearns and Secor in front of the Kroger's. There are near misses. And they're saying that's a hardship to them, that they can't introduce additional traffic onto Secor Road. I think that you folks need to consider the hardship to all of us in this room.
Yes. Tom, you'd like to ask Karen a question?
Karen, does the 300-foot letters go out pertain to this?
That is correct. Notification, it's mandated that we notify all property owners and/or occupants within 300 feet of the perimeter of the property, and those were mailed.
36 letters. 36.
Yeah, there's only 36 people.
They got mail letters. That's ridiculous.
We met the requirement.
Yeah, that's what the state law requires, is anyone within 300 feet, and that's what the township did. That's what was met. And, Mr. Chairman, if I may,
Yes.
just to respond to the last gentleman's comments, there's no backroom deal. There is not a done deal. There's a process that has to be followed. And that process, and you'll be notified again because there will be a public hearing in front of the Planning Commission on the rezoning, the requested rezoning proposed by the applicant. The Planning Commission will make a recommendation. After that recommendation is made, it goes to then it goes to Monroe County Planning Commission, and their staff will prepare a report, and then the Monroe County Planning Commission will make a recommendation based on the requested rezoning. The legislative body of the township is the Township Board. Then it comes back to the Township Board, and there will be a meeting, and all of you will be welcome to attend, and then the township trustees will have to make a decision as to whether or not the requested rezoning will be granted or denied. So there can't be any backroom deals made. It's not a done deal because it all has to be done in public. There's 7 board members, there's 7 planning commission members. They do everything in public, and that's the way it will proceed in this case, as it does in every rezoning case. So rest assured, you will be given your opportunity to appear at those meetings and make your comments known to the decision makers at that time. Now, as far as tonight goes, the developer wants a variance so that the developer can develop a commercial parcel to the east from that 66-foot strip of property. That can't be done without a rezoning because they want to rezone part of what is currently zoned R2A. Part of it is currently zoned C3, part of it's zoned R2A. So this is step 1 in a multi-phase process. So again, I know it's popular among people to get on social media and say there's backroom deals and it's already done. That's not the case. It can't be the case. Law doesn't allow that to be the case in Michigan. They have to make their decisions in public, and that will be done. What's that? Yeah, and Ms. Kincaid pointed out an important point. In addition to rezoning, there has to be site plan approval given for each project. And if they have a multi-phase commercial project here, 4 different parcels, each parcel has to go through its own site plan process, which requires that goes to the Planning Commission, and the Planning Commission considers all the elements set forth in the zoning ordinance, which includes screening and so forth. But again, tonight, this is the Board of Zoning Appeals. They make the decision tonight whether or not this variance will be granted or denied. If they deny the variance, that parcel's still zoned C3, and it was set aside, I think, to provide either a road or access back to the east from Secor Road, and probably will be used by the developer for one reason or another. But again, that depends on rezoning, and it depends on what uses the developer will put that property to. So just to clear the air a little bit on those comments.
Thank you, Phil. Would anybody else in the audience? Yes, thank you.
My name is Barbara White. I live at 2871 Stearns Road, which is very close to the property that's being discussed tonight. I'm going to read from a prepared statement. Being a part of the political process in this fashion has never been something I've ever wanted to do, but this issue strikes a very personal chord for me. My children, Justin Trevor and Alyssa Marie Hahn, were struck and killed on July 4th walking in my neighbor's yard on Stearns Road, not very far from this property. You might be thinking I am a very biased individual regarding this rezoning effort, and yes, you would be correct. Of course, anytime it comes to something political in this country, everyone wants to look at just facts and not the thoughts and feelings of the constituents involved. As I have done no research whatsoever on this rezoning, the increased traffic flow, which I'm sure that's a given, the plans for widening Stearns Road, as I'm sure that's the next step if this rezone occurs, or what type of buildings are planned, and I'm sure there's at least going to be one establishment serving alcohol, I'm talking to you from pure thoughts and feelings. I still have one daughter alive and living with me today, Rachel Elise Hahn. And why do I keep on stating names? Because people have names and they have identities, and they're not just faceless individuals. She is Justin's twin sister, and she has special needs. Every day she asks me, "Where's Justin?" To which I reply, "Heaven," followed by "Where's Alyssa?" Again with heaven as the response. Rachel was born with significant hearing loss, resulting in her wearing a hearing aid and having surgery at the age of 4 on Alyssa's birthday to wear a cochlear implant. And she has also been diagnosed as being on the autism spectrum. You can imagine how my fear of Stearns Road, due to Rachel's safety in front of my house, jumped infinitely on July 4th. Justin and Alyssa were well away from Stearns when they were killed and had the understanding of safety around moving vehicles. Rachel does not have the healthy fear of a vehicle traveling at deadly speeds that they had. And when I say deadly speeds, 45 miles an hour is a deadly speed. As I sit writing this, I'm looking out my window at the multitude of cars passing my home. I grew up living on US 223, now Memorial Highway in Ottawa Lake, and the traffic on that road then, as a US highway, doesn't compare to the traffic that I'm witnessing now on Stearns Road. With increased traffic to whatever commercial establishments planned for the property in question, and I know we're talking about a variance here, but as everyone stated, it's just the first piece of the puzzle that's coming. What kind of drivers will be on our roads? Will they be the type of people that will be observant to the children walking down the road or not? Will they have the best interests of our community in mind or not? Will they just be a means of increasing the tax revenue? I understand the importance of taxes to keeping a community functioning, but if that's all we're looking at when it comes to the type of community we want to be, then I think we have lost sight of the values that make our community a great one. I've learned through my experience that Bedford is a very loving and giving community, a community that I'm proud to live in. I do fear that as the community continues to grow, that we will stray further and further from these traits. It's inevitable. I pray that those with the power to make the decision regarding this property are looking at more than just the facts. I hope they're looking at more than just the money. I pray that you are imagining the type of community you want your children to grow up in, a community with heart and not dollar signs at the center of it.
Thank you. Thank you. Is there anyone else? Yes.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you all for coming. Thank you for speaking. I'm Sue Anderson. I live at 7279 Edinburgh Drive in Lambertville. That's also Green Hills. I'm glad there was somebody else from Green Hills here. I don't see any of my other neighbors, but maybe you're here and I just haven't met you. I spent several hours yesterday looking at the master plan for Bedford Township, and I took an awful lot of notes because it seems to me that the Planning Commission is not paying a lick of attention to the master plan, which I find very disturbing. Given that my time is supposed to be limited, I'm going to try to skip over some of the notes that I took and just get to the ones that I guess affect me, my family, and my neighbors in Green Hills most. Part of what the Planning Commission is tasked with doing is honoring the master plan. Part of what the master plan is supposed to be doing is advocating for what is a good balance between residential and commercial growth in Bedford. I can tell you when my parents built our house in Green Hills in 1959, They didn't want any of this. That's not why the people that move here move here. We don't move here for commercial growth. If we wanted that, we'd be living in Toledo. We need to restrict more people moving out here. We don't need any more businesses. We don't need it, and many of us don't want it. In Green Hills, we often lose our power, electrical power. Happens all the time. Been happening since I was a child and moved here when I was 6 years old. It continues to happen. One of the things that I noticed in the master plan was that we are supposed to have an infrastructure that is supporting businesses as well as residential neighborhoods. I can point blank tell you that in Green Hills, we don't have that. Our streets flood. The storm sewers are very inadequate ever since we paid to repave the roads. Our electricity goes out constantly with almost every storm that we have. I don't understand how the Planning Commission could possibly think that we have the infrastructure in place in Lambertville, close to the corner of Secor and Stearns, to put any more businesses or any more houses up. I don't know how the rest of you feel about that, but I'm real tired of losing my power, and I'm real tired of getting an ice dam at the end of my driveway when the streets continue to flood. Page 14 of the planning, the master plan says the goal for number 8 is low impact development techniques to ensure stormwater runoff quality. We don't have that in Lambertville. Page 19, also under goal number 8, under neighborhood business, I'm quoting, the master plan says, should be located to avoid harmful impacts on traffic patterns and environmental quality. I couldn't even get out of Green Hills today to turn on left on to Stearns Road because I don't know what was going on today. I tried to get to my place of business and couldn't get there. Had to go out the back entrance because there's so much traffic on Stearns Road. The last thing we need is more traffic on Stearns Road. If somebody needs to buy that parcel of land, and maybe Mr. Rendell already has, again, most of us in this room are clueless as to who owns what and who's doing what. We've heard all this gossip, and as we all know, we can't really believe gossip. So we need our elected officials and our planning commission people to be honest with us, give us the information so that we can all make informed, educated decisions. How about we put up a park where that parcel of land is? I have other comments, but I don't want to take up the whole. Other people might have things to say. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. There's quite a few people. Yes, Tom?
May I make a comment, Phil, or not?
After the public has commented and
Okay,
there's discussion,
okay.
sure.
All right.
Okay. All righty. And anyone else from the audience? There's quite, yes. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Thanks, everyone, for coming. I'm Shelley Laurel. I live at 7293 Hidden Valley Drive. I grew up in Lambertville, and now I'm a homeowner in the Hidden Valley subdivision. My home is directly behind the old cow pasture. So obviously, my concerns are some of my concerns are financial. I mean, my property value, if you put all these proposed things, and obviously I recognize that this is the variance hearing, but it is the gateway to this commercial development, let's be honest. If you grant this request tonight, you open the door for this multi-step commercial property. This is a residential area. We are surrounded on 3 sides by residential homes. My concern is not just my financial situation with the loss of property values that will surely result from this in my backyard, but also crime. You know, we already are struggling with that in this township. Safety, traffic. You know, I can give you example after example of times I witness when I'm trying to get off my road to try to turn left, it's literally impossible sometimes of day. We see people turning right, heading up Stearns, doing U-turns in the middle of Summerfield and Stearns, or flying into the Wells Bowen office to do a U-turn. My personal favorite is the Wells Bowen office to go the other direction. But what worries me the most is one place I see people doing U-turns is the child care center across from Green Hills, zipping in one way and out the other so they can head in the direction on Stearns they need to. We're already in a detrimental situation along here. When we know for a fact already approved is 3 or 4 in the strip mall, 3 or 4 new businesses at the site of the old gas station. Done deal, happening, we understand that. At the other end, at Summerfield, already under construction, is yet another dollar store. So Stearns Road, this stretch of Stearns Road, has to absorb all that traffic. How will that be done? Have there been talks that we're unaware of widening that road? I mean, those have already been approved, but no infrastructure to support it. Add to that is this proposed development. I mean, we literally will not be able to get out of our neighborhoods. I mean, that's a safety issue, it impacts our schools. The crime is undoubtedly gonna increase. Commercial development brings crime, without a doubt. I recognize you all have a tough job with the balancing act of balancing growth that we need for the school revenue with protecting residential properties. But we move here and we live in Bedford Township because of the quality of life. We don't want West Toledo and the blight that you see up and down Alexis and Secor. We're not looking for that here. Are the cost of this development really worth the quality of life that will suffer here? I don't think so. And that's why I encourage you to deny this variance request tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? There's quite a few people here. Yes.
My name is Jim Sumner, and I live at 7360 Hidden Valley Drive. I would implore all of the board here to not grant this variance tonight, but I would also implore all of you to tell 4 people that you know, or 5 people that you know, that more is coming October 24th. And on top of that, if we stop it here, got to make it as difficult as possible, which means stop it here. Step 1, as Mr. Goldsmith said, step 1 is tonight. Don't let it get to step 2. That's all I got to say.
Okay.
May I make a point of order here? Whoever's speaking should be speaking to you and us, not the audience.
All right.
Okay?
There was someone back there that had his hand up to speak. You might not have seen it.
Is there someone back here that had their hand up? Thanks, Tom.
Sure.
Hi, my name's Ray Bawa, 3194 Stearns Road.
Okay.
I live directly across from what's happening. I was just wondering what's going to happen to property values, and you're talking about changing maybe the access to come out to Stearns Road instead of Secor. So what's that going to do to our houses with traffic coming right in, shining at our, there's a handful of houses across the street, so headlights are going in our place now at night or whatever, you know. If they're 34 feet short for the property they need over there, buy the car wash if they need the access. You know, if they need it, buy that to get their frontage. That's all I need. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes. Yeah, I know it. Just I don't think.
Hi, my name is Mike Shine, 7289 Hidden Valley Drive.
Yes.
This whole meeting is about the 100-foot variance.
Yes, that's correct.
And my understanding is the request is they have 66 feet. And so they want to be able to establish a road within that 66 feet to go back to the commercial property that's going to be developed. Am I correct?
They want to be able to develop a commercial property with only 66 feet of frontage rather than the normally required 100 feet.
The existing frontage already provides enough for a drive or a road.
66 feet does, yes.
Feet already provides enough frontage for a drive or an access or a road.
Mhm.
This would be to create a parcel.
That was, I guess you sort of answered my question there, because if it's established already in codes that 100 feet is required, my question was, is the 100 feet just merely for aesthetics to look nice, or is it involving safety of the general public? Now, that road comes out, you have Burger King to one side, you have Splash Car Wash on the other, and it's not too far from the red light at Stearns. You have traffic backing up. If that's going to be established as a road to get back to the commercial property, obviously that means there's going to be trucks making deliveries. Now, we have traffic backed up at a traffic light. You're going to have trucks of who knows what size trying to make left-hand turns on the Seacourt to go back to Ohio, or even merely making a right turn to go up to get all the way into the left turn lane to turn left on Stearns to go out to 23. This is a safety issue, as one resident already stated. If you're concerned about the safety of Lambertville and its residents, this should be denied. Thank you.
And my husband is a truck driver.
Okay. Yes, anyone else?
Good evening. Thank you, everyone, for coming. I've been a resident here for 15 years.
Name and
And,
address.
Name and address, please.
7297 Hidden Valley. Our property faces right to the back of the pasture, and I feel for this gentleman over here on the other side of us. One thing that concerns me since I moved up here, since they put Taco Bell next to those poor people that own that home there, that house has been left vacant. The for sale sign is back out there. I am horribly concerned, horribly concerned. Not only do I hear sirens going off constantly and think, oh my God, all I think about is July 4th. Did somebody else get hurt? There are sirens going constantly. Not only does the traffic bad, like everybody has said, but I am very concerned about my property value. What's going to be in my backyard? Am I going to have a business that's going to bring my property values down, as Shelley said? Thank you all for coming.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak? Okay. Oh, okay.
Shelley Licata, 7124 Ridgedale Lane, and I am Old Colonial Gardens, or Colonial Garden Estates as it's known. We have issues for a long time since Kroger's has been built up, since that corner has been built up, trying to turn out of that neighborhood. Yes, there are calm times, there are many busy times. Many times I find myself turning right, and I will stop and wait to go into New Colonial to loop around. Or I find variances of ways to get around. It's bad. There are dead times that we can get around this traffic. Living there, I've lived in this house since '76. I bought it from my mom, and I watched it grow. We had Tasty Freeze. McDonald's was built shortly after. I believe Flick's may have been there, 2 gas stations, 3 banks. The vet's office was up there. Burger King was not, as somebody else had mentioned. That was all cow pasture. We had Food Town that had the barber shop, and Mr. Wadelick. We had Mr. Wadelick up there. We could walk safely up through the woods from either neighborhood. My children are older now. I won't permit them to walk. My heart breaks for you, ma'am. I feel for you. And that is exactly why. My kids think I'm crazy, and I told them, no. This is why I don't want them walking. I'm petrified with my son driving and pulling out. Multiple times, I have seen accidents. My home backs up to the woods that is for sale at the top of the hill on Secor. I'm so excited to see more commercialization going in. I can't wait to see what comes in behind me. I'm thinking, is it time for me to sell my house and make a move? The house I love, the house I grew up in. I see deer, I see wildlife. It's quiet, it's serene. I have good neighbors, neighbors that I've known since I was 9 years old. We just have a tight community. And pulling in and out of Kroger's, I don't know how many times I mentioned on Facebook, people talk about social media. It's not just to gossip. There are facts there. People do state facts on Facebook. It's not just to spew. There are some pages people just spew. Some people have fun and they're just being sarcastic and joking. There's truth to a lot of these things that are being put out there. I've seen multiple accidents on my way home from Kroger, turning right to head back to my neighborhood. Cars flipped over, trying to get out from Quail Hollow and Fifth Third. I have seen at least 2 to 3 SUVs, another vehicle. There are multiple accidents at that corner. My sister was in an accident at that corner. Fortunately, I've never been in one at that corner. The cars zip over, they drive, trying to pull out of Coney Island and Food Town to make a left-hand turn. You're battling people coming out of McDonald's. You're battling people coming out of Flicks. I have suggested on Facebook maybe we need some more lights, something to control some traffic to let the neighbors on the west side of Secor to be able to get in and out, because that's what we are battling right now. I have found pulling out of Kroger's down by Marco's onto Secor, if I want to make a left turn, difficult. It's hard to see, and people don't drive right. Some people drive very well, a lot of people don't drive right. I turn right, I get into the turn lane, sometimes I go down to Walgreens, sometimes I turn into O'Reilly's, and back. If I'm pulling out of Food Town onto Secor, sometimes I turn right. I'll go down to the little magic walk, turn in there, come back. Depends on where I'm at and how much traffic there is. If you're turning right and you need to turn right, you've got it made. You can't get out and make a left anywhere. My concern also is adding all this in, we're gonna have more traffic coming in. You talk about funding for schools, we're trying to fix roads. We've got so many roads that are in such disrepair. We bring more traffic in, we have more road wear. We're gonna have to keep these roads up because we have to support these businesses coming in. When are these roads that are falling apart going to get fixed? Who knows? Rumor is Tractor Supply and Aldi's. We've got Kroger's. We've got one of the largest marketplace Kroger's in our area, in the region. It's no. Is it? Is it? Okay, so I'm correct on that. Aldi's, great. You can save a couple bucks. Aldi's has been around forever. They had one at Northtown. It's now some Play Zone place. There's one in Sylvania. I've been to Aldi's a total of 4 times. I'm that thrilled with it. Don't care. I probably won't go there. Tractor Supply, if I need a Tractor Supply, I know where they are. It doesn't do much for me. I love Mazarant's. Mazarant's does our town good. It's a family business. It's a local Michigan business. It's not a big franchise. Aldi's, that's something else. And our hardware store, what's going to happen to our hardware store? There are so many things. My biggest fears are the traffic, the safety. The sirens are all the time. They are all the time. Night, I hear them at night. My son's out driving. He's older now. And, you know, don't call me, Mom. Well, I call because I'm scared. I hear sirens. You're not home yet. They're constant. Daytime, nighttime. I don't care about bonfires. I don't care about firecrackers. Burning leaves. When we moved up, people burn leaves. It happens. I understand allergies. My daughter has reactive airway. It affects her. I keep her inside. We go elsewhere. We deal with it. But we moved up here because it was nice. It was quiet. We had what we needed. We didn't need to blow into a, I apologize, but for lack of better words, a little Toledo. Toledo is 10 minutes down the road. So please.
Thank you.
Amy Drehorst, 7512 Bernard Drive. That's the street right next to where Montry Estates is going in. I never went to a meeting for that. I knew eventually that that land would be developed into something. What it's being developed into is better than what's being proposed here. I know that change comes, and I know that the township is going to grow. First, I want to make sure that I completely understand something. I thought I did, and now I'm confused. So you said that 66 feet is enough for the access road, correct? So if that's what they want to put in, this is technically not necessary tonight because they can do that. So is my understanding that that the size or the shape of the lot that's on Stearns is not configured in a way that they could do what they want to do unless they have this access road? Do I understand that correctly?
Mr. Chairman, you want me to?
Yes, go ahead.
What the applicant is proposing is a lot that will be accessed from Secor Road with the 66 feet of frontage there. What they need for a buildable lot, this would be a lot unto itself that would not that would not necessarily have access from Stearns Road, just from Secor Road. But for that lot to be a buildable lot in a commercial zone district, in a C3 district, it has to have 100 feet of frontage as opposed to 66 feet of frontage. The developer conceptually could redevelop or redesign that area and use, and most likely, depending on what happens tonight, and again, before in the front of the Planning Commission and the board, will most likely use that strip of property, that 66-foot strip of property, as some sort of an access drive. What they're requesting tonight is to actually use that as frontage for one lot that would be accessed only, as I understand it, only from Secor Road. Everybody can't see this. I'll show you. This is the lot right here. Okay, access from these lots here will be separate lots, access from Stearns Road. So that's what.
So so this they could do anyway, regardless of what happens here tonight.
I'm just doing this to give you an idea of what's going on.
I understand.
You call it.
Okay.
It doesn't, it doesn't matter if it goes over.
Somebody goes 20.
Yeah.
No,
People need to be heard.
Explain it to them. Well, I'm not allowed to talk to them, so. All right,
That'll be up to the applicant to present it.
All right, so now I understand that. Now, the only comments that I have are that I'm a huge supporter of the schools. I made 2 Facebook posts today. One of them was about this meeting, the other one was about the millage for the schools. It would benefit the schools to have more businesses here. I totally get that. So I'm not anti-business. I think there are other locations, probably in the master plan. Lewis Avenue is my understanding. I've lived here my whole life. Let's not talk about how many years that is. But my understanding is that that is to be the commercial corridor. It's more and more run down all the time. Why don't we direct developers over there to put businesses like Tractor Supply and Aldi in these existing commercially zoned parcels that are ready and waiting? The second question that I would have is what kind of tax promises, and I know that's not you, but what kind of tax promises would be made to these businesses that mean the schools and the rest of the township aren't going to even see a benefit in taxes for how many years once these go in? I just think that there's a fiduciary duty to the entire community that's bigger than the variance on this one property tonight. And I would hope that you're considering the master plan and the entire community as a whole.
Thank you.
Chairman, if you'd like, I can walk through that real quickly. And then
Sure, that'd be okay. That'd be good, I think.
Why don't we all have a copy of this? Why do you
Could you show that to the board, whatever you got in your hand?
Same thing as we have.
Okay, all right, thank you.
The proposal before the board tonight is that we would wish to split this parcel off, and then this becomes. Yeah, can you hold this? Okay, what we're proposing is that the lot, the parent parcel is this entire field and residence, so there's a farmhouse up in here, that we would propose to split this parcel off. There's 5 splits that are left for the site. We're attempting to split those off for the commercial development, mixed-use development in reality. You'll hear more about that shortly. But the present lot that we're talking about is this one here in the back, which has access off of Secord. And that's where we're looking at the frontage issue, which presently the entire parcel is met with the 100 feet, in excess of 100 feet along Stearns Road there. So it's this portion right here that would make this an independent lot for development that we're requesting the variance on. Our present concept drawings would indicate that that lot would be wholly contained and only accessed from that drive. And there would be no cut-through. That would all get finalized. There may be requirements by the township engineer and the planners that might require something different. Our intent right now is that that would be its own access, and there would be no cut-through opportunity, which other development concepts might allow.
Does that show the wetlands that is in that area?
Yes, it does.
And what happens to those wetlands? Yes. Which feed into other wetlands, which runs behind
Excuse me, sir. If we're going to ask questions, could you repeat the question so it goes out in
The question was related to wetlands. We have very strict rules on what we will have to comply with in order to preserve, mitigate, or otherwise adjust those wetlands if that becomes part of the plan.
Does that mean you'll move it to someplace else?
There is that possibility. Those are man-made.
That's not a good possibility.
Those are.
Why don't we try to focus on what is here tonight?
Thank you.
Before the board? We're not talking about wetlands. We're talking about a frontage variance only. Those issues will be discussed by both the Planning Commission, the MDEQ, and the Township Board and the County Planning Commission. That they have to be reviewed. And I understand they're valid points, but that's not what's before the board, this board. If you live within 300 feet, then you can contact the township and get a schedule of the meetings and the public hearings. There'll be a public hearing in front of the Planning Commission. You've already been advised of that tonight. That's what, October 24th. So that's a public meeting and a public hearing. You're welcome to attend that. And you can contact the township and you'll be advised. You can keep abreast of when the meetings for this project will occur. Every meeting will be a public meeting, even in front of the County Planning Commission. That's a public meeting as well.
Okay. Yes. Okay.
My name is Shirley Sumner, 7360 Hidden Valley Drive. Thank you all for coming. Traffic, traffic, traffic. Like many of my other neighbors, when I attempt to pull out of my street to turn, to turn left or west onto Stearns Road, I too have to turn right and usually go down to Decker Homes, turn around and come back, turning left. I worked at Kroger for 12 years. our former store manager, Doug DeArmond, pleaded with the employees of that store to not turn left onto Stearns, where the gal from Colonial, the Colonial Division, we saw many cars upside down, totaled, turning left. He encouraged us to go out onto Secor Road. When I think of this entrance coming off of Secor Road, and as what has been mentioned before also, turning left, have any of you ever been on Stearns Road, Secor Road, different times of the day, New Bedford Academy, when they're letting out? There have been times when the light has been red on Secor and Smith. I've been down by Reliance Oil, or further south than that, waiting for a light at Smith. Please do not allow this variance tonight. Please.
Anyone else in the audience? Yes.
Joe Lambert, 7373 Gray Estates Drive, which is right next to Green Hills. It was one of the newer subdivisions. We moved in there, and I believe there's 73 homes in there, to find out just in the past month that they're building a general store at Stearns and Summerfield. Who would allow that? You know, I mean, I know that's a done deal and over with, but all I keep hearing about is traffic, traffic, traffic. I've lived in Bedford my whole life, mainly on Stearns Road between Secor and Summerfield. Traffic is horrendous. But I remember years ago, we had Paul Whitman that wanted to put something in at Lewis and Stearns, and I believe it was a Walmart that they fought, and so what did he do there? Now we have apartment buildings and all this stuff. How is the schools going to handle it? I understand that, especially Hidden Valley, who's going to back up to this, doesn't like this. I'm not too keen on it, but would I rather see commercial in a commercial district, or would I rather see apartment buildings and more homes in that area? Because okay, it's residents, so you want another 100 homes in there? And you got 61 homes going on Stearns Road just east of Douglas. I mean, something has to be done with the roads for sure. I mean, Stearns and Secor is a commercial area of Bedford Township. They're not going to move over on the Lewis Avenue corridors where there's office buildings. You know, these bigger places, Kroger's, et cetera, and whatever's planning on coming in here is not going to go over there on Lewis Avenue. The big spot is Stearns and Secor, that's downtown Lambertville, and they were there, unfortunately, before Hidden Valley was made, and I think there needs to be something where these people have some egress at whatever gets built there, that they don't have to look out their back windows and see what goes in there. But something's going to go in there. We can all sit here and say, oh, it'd be nice to have a park. Who's going to spend $1 million on the park? Bedford Township? We don't have the money. We don't have the money for the road. So let's get to reality and what is really going to go there? Is it going to be something commercial, or are we going to have more apartments and houses that the schools can't handle now? So that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Yes.
My name's Dana Shocked. I live at 10445 Jackman Road. I lived in Hidden Valley for 20 years, and I moved out almost a year ago. Nice seeing my neighbors here. So just touching on a lot of what everybody else has said here. We know that some of that is zoned for commercial and that this is about a variance. But going along with what the gentleman just spoke about is that I can literally get to Kroger's from Jackman and Samaria faster than I could when I lived in Hidden Valley because of the traffic. We timed it. I'm like, I'm gonna see how long it takes to get to Kroger's from my new house up the street here up on Jackman. and I literally can get there faster because of having to make a left-hand turn out of Hidden Valley. Now, even if you give this egress or the variance for Secor Road, what Shirley just talked about, any of you come up Secor Road at 5 o'clock, from 3 o'clock to 5 o'clock, between the golf course, the New Bedford Academy, and everything else that's going, everyone's coming up there. You have all of the new Plot 3 going on at Summerfield and Stearns, I'm sorry, Smith and
Secor.
Smith and Secor. You have all of that. We have the Monterey Estates that got in. As the other gentleman, nobody knew about the Dollar General. Nobody got, because whether you legally have to mail out 36 letters, because does that make it right that nobody else gets notified? Yes, you followed the law. You mailed out 36 letters, but there's 85 people who live in Hidden Valley, 85 homes. Nobody else got notified. The only reason you have this many people here is because everybody took a grassroots effort to try to get people to let you know what people want up here. I understand that commercial growth is going to happen some, but however, if whatever the plans are that we're going to hear or what's not going in there, whether it's a Tractor Supply, an Aldi grocery store, or whatever, we moved up here 21 years ago. We try to shop local. That's what you guys encourage us to do. Shopping at a big box store is not supporting local. Foodtown partly went out because of the Kroger's, no offense to Kroger's, okay? So then we try to go to Flicks. They get and put a big liquor store in there that's hurting Flicks. I mean, nobody comes up to this area to buy booze because you got to pay a bottle deposit. We can talk about that, and the people coming up here with the bottle deposit program problem at Kroger's that I can't even go and get my $2.10 because I don't want to stand in line for an hour, okay? I have a business up here. I work up here. I live up here. So not only that, he talked about, we fought to keep out Myers. We fought to keep out Walmart. Am I happy what's going down at Lewis and Stern, or Lewis and Smith, down there? Thank you. No, I'm not. However, we talk about the crime, the safety, the roads. We also have a volunteer fire department, and we don't even have enough police as it is right now. We have multi-level apartment units going on down there. Where do you think all that traffic's gonna go? Right down Stearns to Kroger's, right down there to Walgreens. They're not gonna go off into Toledo. Everybody's talking about their property values. That's an issue as well, but it really is about the safety and what the community wants. So, you know, there's the variance, but as everyone's saying, it's a step in this starting of the process. I'm sure there's going to be more people that are going to be at the planning meetings and whoever's going to go to the other, but I, along with most of the people in here, would ask that you don't grant the variance. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anyone else from the audience? Okay. The developer, yes.
Hi. I'm John Bates. I also, like many of you, have lived here. I've lived here for 40 years. Plan on living here for another 40, hopefully. Graduated from Bedford High School. Involved in many aspects of the community. I, with another group of investors, Jess Saylor, Junior and Senior, who lead this development on this community for this project. We have a development we thought we could bring to Bedford for Bedford to get behind. And this is why I say a development Bedford to get behind. I don't want my neighbors to be upset with me. I live here. I don't want to go in the grocery store, and I understand that. So I'm going to here to tell the truth and put my cards on the table and let the township vote how they see fit. So first off, we do have a site plan here, but we also have a site concept. I've read the rumors on Facebook. I've read everything else about commercial creeper. This is what our plan is, right here. These two units, there's nothing in writing with these two companies that everybody's saying that are coming. There's nothing in writing that says they're coming. Yes.
We understand that there's a non-disclosure agreement in place, so you can say there's nothing in writing, but is that actually, I mean, Paul Peroni is the one that said, and I repeated it carefully back to him, Tractor Supply, Aldi. So I understand that that probably blew up your end to
Well, there is a NDA in place, but there's no contract with either any company. So that's what I can tell you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
I suggest that we close the public hearing, let Mr. Bates make his presentation, and then we can proceed from there. There really can't be an exchange from
Okay.
the audience with, I know you would entertain it. You should make your presentation to the board and
I want to the public, because these
So-
are my neighbors. I live here.
so
Okay.
a motion should be made to close the public hearing, allow them to continue on with their presentation, then the board can discuss
I live in
and vote.
On time.
Okay, we have heard from many of the audience. I would, as our township attorney suggests, I would entertain a motion to close the public hearing so the developer can make his presentation.
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Support. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay. Motion carried. John, please proceed.
Okay, anyways, our vision was to bring something into the township where there's a buffer created between the heavy commercial to the residential, to like a multifamily townhouses and a retail center. This is what we are going for. Again, I know not everybody's gonna be happy about it, and I don't know if it's gonna go through today, but I'm not here to say shady things, lie. This is what it is. This is what we're planning on doing. So, I myself, as a resident in this township.
I haven't seen this.
My name has been drugged through the mud on some of this stuff by people who don't even know me, saying that there's shady things happening and whatever. This is it. I had somebody post it on Facebook. My cards are on the table. I can tell you, I drive through that corridor. Yeah, I think the traffic's bad. I think it's really bad. I agree with you. But something's gonna go there, and just so you know, the road commission requires that a traffic study be done before anything else goes there. That's a fact. Oh, yeah. The road commission will require a traffic study before anything goes there. I know right now, I think that the traffic's bad as it is. And it's bad right now. What are we doing about the traffic right now? At least this is gonna drive for the road commission to do the survey. I mean, I'm just being honest and open. I don't know about Summerfield and Stearns. So, again, I'm here. This is what we're going for. Oh, you want to take it around? I mean, it's on Facebook, so I'm sure most of you have seen it. Oh, sorry. Okay.
Those are homes?
It was on Unleashed and Community News and Events.
Bob. Hey, Bob.
Yes.
Explain to the audience.
I'll
that
print you,
the
we can print you some copies.
is no longer
Yeah, absolutely. I will entertain.
Mr.
if
Bates,
you got, yes.
we've closed the public hearing.
Oh, okay.
So if you would address the board, please.
I
Thank you.
apologize. I apologize.
For the record, like we had to,
He
All right.
did.
Okay. This is what we're going for. We believe it's a good fit for the master plan of the township. And Jess, would you like to speak on any of this? Sure.
My name's Jess Saylor. I live at 9825 Lake Road. This is rendition number 15. Okay, we had several different plans that didn't have access from Secor Road. It didn't change the development. The development, we still have the underlying zoning, it's part of the master plan. We try to do is segment off this one piece so that we limited access. We even proposed having a lot line that had non-access to the other part of the site, so that the sites couldn't be adjoined, is one of the things that we proposed at the first meeting we had here. So that's on the table for us, is to limit access in and out of that site, just to that site, so that you don't get the drive-throughs. And again, that's number 15. and we're real sensitive to the wetlands, and we're very sensitive to the community behind it. If you look at the plan, it has residential butting up against residential, and then a buffer of townhomes that would be marketed to seniors, and then light commercial. Does the board have any questions?
Does the board?
I have no questions on development. We're here to talk about a variance.
No, that's right.
Okay. I've been the intersection many times, and like if I want to get to Taco Bell from C-Car, I'll drive around behind the Walgreens and the bank, and vice versa. If I want to get to, as I understand it on this plan that we just saw, the 66 feet off of C-Car is for an access drive only. There's not going to be any, it doesn't look like there's going to be any building within that 66 feet?
Yeah, the building will be back behind the other buildings.
Okay.
That's the proposal, and, you know, as John said, we don't have any deals in place, you know, and also to come up here and insinuate that we've made backroom deals is pretty disheartening, actually. I've actually never talked to anybody on this board or any other Bedford boards. We've dealt directly with our professionals, the architects. They've had all the interactions. And so you shake your head like we don't have a deal. And we haven't made any backroom deals. And so I just think that that's just a little bit insulting on a very first approach to the township. And it's really more disappointing than it's anything.
Doesn't that drawing that you have right there, though, still have 3 entrances going out onto Stearns Road from that?
Right now, I'm only talking about the Secor Road piece at this point in time.
More traffic onto Stearns, dumping out right onto Stearns Road.
So again, I've heard everyone come up here talk about traffic. You have a traffic problem in this township right now. This doesn't add or take away from that traffic problem. It doesn't change
Please
tomorrow.
call to order.
Tomorrow, when you all go
address
to
the
work
board.
and you all have to make these U-turns, you're still going to do those tomorrow. This is step 1 in multiple steps, as the township attorney has indicated.
Okay, thank you.
Does the board have any questions regarding the variance request before it tonight of Mr. Saylor or Mr. Bates or their architect who is here?
I've got no questions for them.
No.
Then it's time for the board to deliberate.
Can I make one more statement, please?
Go ahead.
Okay, the very first gentleman that walked up here, by his own admission, said that the landowners now, the Rendells, have created the hardship. So I just would, submit that to you, that there's already a hardship that's been created, and we're asking for relief on that hardship.
Okay, it's time for this board to deliberate unless you have questions of the architect or the developers.
Do we have any?
I'm good with questions for them.
I have no questions for them.
I have questions for township staff.
Okay.
Yeah.
We have questions for the staff, but not for the developer.
Fire away.
All right.
Okay.
The 2001 splash car wash variance that kind of started this whole only 66 feet of frontage. Do we have any particulars behind that? Like, what was the reasoning, the rationale? I know that was 17 years ago now, but trying to get some background on that.
We can't speak to the reason they maintain the 66 feet, other than it does provide an area for an access drive. They do have frontage on Stearns Road, but the 66 feet would provide, should this ever be developed for something with a public road, it could also serve as a public road for a development. The width is at the requirement for that type of development. So an access drive, a road, 66 feet does meet that minimum requirement.
More than likely, it was reserved because that's required width of a public road, and more than likely it was reserved for a public road to run to the east back into this area for future development. That's somewhat speculation, but I've been doing this long enough to know that you see enough 66-foot right-of-ways maintained for that purpose.
So all the other splits were done given the commercial establishments plus or minus 100 feet, and what was left out of the original frontage, what's left is 66 feet.
Well,
and the plan was that's enough for an access drive to the rest of the commercial property that's already zoned behind there.
It would appear that a conscious decision was made when property divisions were applied for and approved, that this was reserved to that parcel by the owner of that parcel for future development purposes. That's what it looks like. It looks like there might have been plans for the future to put in a public road.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions?
Just for the record, Karen, you said the zoning on this piece of property in particular has been C3 prior to 1977?
The portion that is currently C3 zoned was C3 zoned in 1977 when the zoning ordinance went into effect. This was a split zone parcel at that time, as it continues today. We would no longer create split zone parcels.
Right.
This is one that has been created for a number of years.
Are we supposed to be able to hear you guys talk? Can't hear what you're saying or her?
I'm sorry, I thought it was close enough.
You're supposed to hear it, but the sound system is not all that great. We'll try to speak up, but
We need to speak into the mic.
What'd you say?
Board members are asked to speak directly into the mic so everybody can hear, as well as be recorded. Yes.
May,
Tom, speak into the mic.
all right, Karen, could you briefly summarize what we're deciding on? We've got 66 feet. They want a 34-foot variance to have 100 feet on Secor Road to comply, correct?
To create a buildable lot.
Right, so that the 66 feet is out the window. We're interested in 100, correct?
The application
66
is,
plus the 34 is the variance. That's it.
let me put it this way. In a C3 zoning district, for you to have a buildable lot, you need 100 feet of frontage. This lot, as proposed by the developer, has 66 feet of frontage, and therefore they have requested a 34-foot frontage variance to make this a buildable lot in a C3 zoning district. That's that's the first part. They still have to go in front of the Planning Commission, the County Planning Commission, and the board, because this is a split zone parcel, and only the west portion of this lot is zone C3, and what they want to use as C3 would encompass part of the R2A, and it has to be rezoned. Does that help you?
That's exactly what I assumed was the deal, but I thought we needed to pick the meat out of the soup and get down to basics before we take a vote.
Okay.
That's quite all right.
Thank you, Phil.
You're welcome.
So we're only voting on whether or not to grant the variance.
Yep.
grant the 34 feet variance on Secor Road.
Which, if granted and approved after subsequent meetings, as far as land division, yes. In other words, it may be a 66-foot driveway, but they need 100 foot to establish a C3 lot on
Secor Road.
That's it. That's the total issue.
Okay, if there's no other questions or comments amongst us or for our support staff, I'm open for a motion.
Leave that.
Another way in. Yeah.
Okay. Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I'd like to take a shot at a motion.
Okay.
All right. I would like to make a motion on parcel number 5802-032-055-60. I need another property description. I guess I don't need another property. 3199 West Stearns Road is the variance location. I would like to make a motion to approve the variance requested to create a 66-foot frontage on Secor Road, to increase it to 100 feet of frontage on Secor Road by the addition of 34 additional feet. The reason, the hardship is previous land divisions along Secor Road that were done back to 2000 or later created smaller than buildable frontage, which is what we have here. We have a 66-foot C3 commercially zoned parcel that can't meet the requirements of 100 feet of frontage to become a buildable lot in C3 zoned properties. Do anything else, Phil?
Well, what you're really saying, I think, is you're not making 100 feet of frontage. It's going to remain 66 feet of frontage. So the variance request, as proposed by the developer, is a 34-foot frontage.
The variance will reduce it down to 66.
A 34-foot frontage variance that would allow, that would create a buildable lot on the proposed parcel. And I would suggest that it goes without saying, but it's subject to a rezoning. This board is merely, if this motion is seconded and it passes, if it has the required votes, you are granting a 34-foot frontage variance.
Yes, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have added them together and pretended it was going to become a 100-foot lot.
Yeah, it's not. It's going to remain 66 feet. You're granting a 34-foot frontage variance if the board votes in favor of the motion, if it's seconded and the board votes in favor. If.
Thanks, Phil.
I'll support contingent. I think we also needed to state in there that it was I'll support, but what we need to talk about, it's contingent upon the split zoning becoming one continuous zoning.
I'll accept that amendment.
So
I'm not sure I understood that, I'm sorry.
So the contingency is we'll allow the variance if down the road, somebody else approves the rezoning?
To create one zoning, correct.
Okay.
Is that allowable?
So what you're saying is that the motion is subject to the Bedford Township Board granting a rezoning request to make the entirety of the lot C3. Is that what you're saying?
Correct, yes.
Okay. So it's subject to a rezoning?
Correct.
Okay.
Does Tom agree to that? You agree to that friendly amendment?
Pardon me?
Do you agree to that friendly amendment?
Yes, I agreed to it.
I'm sorry if I misunderstood. I'm sorry, Jake. You're talking about making the whole thing C3?
No.
Just this,
Just the proposed,
just what's proposed here?
yes.
Okay, I wanted to make sure I understood. Thank you.
And sorry for the confusion
It's
that I
okay.
may have created.
It needs to be clear for the record, and everybody here needs to understand what they're voting on.
Right, thank you.
Want me to clarify? The proposal that we have in front of us requires a 66 or a plus or minus 34-foot variance. The proposal amendment is contingent upon the proposal here, which would state there's half of this parcel that right now is zoned R2A, which is residential. To do this, they would have to get that whole proposal of this Lot 1 would have to become C3 commercial. That's the contingency I'm applying as on a motion. That's what
It's not up to us.
that's my contingency.
Yes, okay.
All right. Well, we have a motion and a support. Karen, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Zebek,
Yes.
Mr. Lake,
Yes.
Mr. Welling,
Aye.
Mr. Potter.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Everybody on the 24th. 24th.
Come back up.
Bring them all.
Guys, we're still in meeting, so, yes, we are still having a meeting.
How long?
Now it's time to close.
I'm on the planning commission. It'll come before me as one member. This is just the beginning. You apparently aren't listening. How long you lived here? 45. I live on Smith Road. Don't tell me about Stearns. We're getting roundabout. You talk about impossible. I can't believe how many people in this meeting know nothing about anything but they read it. Facebook. It's rumors. It's rumors. We're still in session. I shouldn't be
Okay.
speaking.
Okay, next item on the agenda is public comment. Hearing none. Next item is board staff and comments. Tom?
Hang on a second, I got a list here.
Any comments?
Tom's looking at his notes.
Will you indulge me?
We're waiting for you.
Quickly, yes.
Okay. I didn't feel as though it was fair that the planning commission was blamed for power outages. We were talking about a variance. People don't understand an owner of a parcel property can do whatever they want within the regulations of the zoning. It's not our decision, it's the property owners. And I hope they understand this is not easy up here. That's all I have.
Thank you. Jake?
I got nothing.
The only thing I have is similar to what Tom said, that all of us as property owners have the right to do what we want with the property we have within the zoning requirements. This board's job is to consider when I want to do something on the property that's not within the zoning regulations, whether or not the justification exists for me to do that. In this case, the current or future owner of this parcel is left with a 66-foot frontage on Secor Road, and that's all that's left. So it seems to me unfair to deny a request for them to be able to develop property behind it. So, George?
First of all, I agree with the safety items, because that's always been a bugaboo of mine. Seeing as some of this is already C3, if we would have voted no, I do believe people putting this together would find another way to get in there off of Stearns. I don't think denying this request would have stopped them, whether it would or whether or not. My thought is to encourage people. We have a planning meeting. They have a Monroe County planning meeting. They have to come back to the township board. Talk to these people. We're talking about the variance. You folks are talking about, you're concerned about the zoning going on. That is really out of our hands. All we're doing is doing the variance. This is America. Call them, talk to them, whatever, with courtesy, not get in their face. So that's all I have. You have choices.
Thank you, George.
I have
Jody?
nothing.
Denny?
I have nothing.
Bill? And Karen?
You have nothing? The next meeting is scheduled for November 5th. November 5th. So deadline is not until next Monday.
But we do have an item.
Correct.
But we do.
An item. The next BZA meeting, that is a totally different meeting. This next board's meeting is November 5th. That meeting that you're speaking to regarding the rezoning is on October 24th.
And it's basically by you guys that decide that, or is it like a vote?
It's a different board.
I'll explain it after the meeting's over.
Yeah.
That's okay. No problem.
Okay. If there's no objection, I'll adjourn the meeting.
Come on, we might have torches out there.
Well, I'll tell you why.